Hello and welcome to This Sporting Planet, your global view of sport. In the USA, I'm Todd Harris.
And from Singapore, I'm Edward Russell.
Well, in this episode, we're looking ahead to the start of the new Major League Baseball season and whether Shohei Ohtani can shine as brightly as he did in 2024 for the World Series winning Los Angeles Dodgers.
Oh yeah, plus can the Indonesian men's football team qualify for their first ever FIFA World Cup under new head coach, Dutch footballing royalty Patrick Kluivert?
And in Formula One, have Red Bull made the most brutal driver decision of their 20-year history? And who should we be looking out for in this year's IPL? It's all coming up. Well, so much to look forward to in this episode, but first things first, I want to reintroduce you to a voice that you'll be familiar with on This Sporting Planet who's joining the family permanently. Suhail Chandhok is a former cricketer, turned presenter, and reporter from India, and he's joining us for this episode. Suhail, welcome back to the family, and tell us what you've been up to lately.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks, Edward. Great to be part of the family officially, I guess now. Great to be a part of the hosting lineup as well. But look, I think sport's been my life ever since I can remember it. 3 generations of sport. So if you can get me on any platform anywhere in the world talking sport, I'm a happy man. So yeah, looking forward to this. At the moment in India, it's cricket, and more cricket. And we'll get to all of that in a bit. But there's a few others that need mentioning, I think, along the way as well. But look, guys, happy to be here. Looking forward to a bit of banter, a lot of disagreements along the way, I'm guessing as well. But to be in different parts of the world and be able to do this, hey, life's pretty good.
Yeah, great to have you with us. Can I just say, we're both from, Todd is from the US, and obviously that's got a massive sporting culture here in Southeast Asia as well. But is it fair to say that India has the most passionate sports fans?
I would say so. Look, it's hard to say sports fans. I would say the most passionate cricket fans.
Okay.
The other sports are catching up, and there's kind of cricket, and then there's, well, they're not in the screen yet. They're emerging into the screen slowly, hopefully at some point. But I think that's kind of where the other sports are, which is why I think I spoke about it when we last chatted. I think India needs to still develop into a sporting nation and not a cult hero chasing nation. We've got icons galore. We've got some incredible sporting talent from across disciplines, including a javelin thrower who came out of nowhere, is now an Olympic gold medalist, to, of course, our cricketers who will now become Olympians at LA in 2028. But yeah, there is a lot of passion. There's 1.5 billion people, Edward. So yeah, passion is, and we're pretty loud people as well. Make sure our voice is heard.
I've definitely experienced that for myself over the years, yeah.
We're definitely going to lean on your knowledge and your Rolodex, so we hope you have all your contacts ready to go.
Yeah, we'll get there one by one. There's a lot of people to get through.
Well, lots still to come on This Sporting Planet, including a look at the absolute behemoth that is the Indian Premier League. But first, I want to find out what are the sports stories that are happening in your area over the last few weeks. I will start here in the Americas, and we'll start with U.S. sports. Of course, March Madness has taken grips over the whole country. Everyone's bracket was either busted or doing great after the first and second week. My alma mater, BYU, made it to the Sweet 16, so that's a great deal as well. But the Houston Cougars, the team that I picked to go all the way and win it all, is still alive as of this recording. They have made it into the Final Four, so that is big news for me. And a lot of people are just, they're basically going for bragging rights. There's not a whole lot else going on. Also, in the U.S., there's not all great news. The U.S. men's national soccer team is really struggling. After they brought in their coach, the former head coach of Chelsea, Pochettino, he was going to take things over. They're going to turn the corner. They're going to have a different brand of soccer, football. They lose to Panama and then to Canada in the CONCACAF Nations League. And guys, you can only imagine when you bring in a new coach that high a profile, and he's promising we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. After 2 games, he basically says, hey, just because you put on the jersey doesn't mean you're going to win. And it's really been a struggle. I know the fans, we talk about the passion their fans are in India, but in the USA, we don't do well with losing. And it has just been, I want to say, one thing after the other of people saying, when is it our turn? When will they turn the corner? We've got the great athletes, we've got the coaches, we've got the facilities. It's just not happening.
That's what happens when you sign a former Spurs manager, Todd.
I knew you'd get a dig in somehow.
I just love the fact that the US women's soccer team is always just right up there and hammering the men's soccer team. I mean, I know more women's soccer players from America than the men's. So, hey, that says something.
Yeah, and I think it's a distraction in the sense that there's so many good players they're bringing in, but I think they feel the weight of, I don't say the weight of the country, but yeah, they want to be equal to the the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, hockey, all these other sports, and they don't feel like they're getting their due. And I think it all goes back to that great old saying by the old owner of the Los Angeles Raiders, "Just win, baby." I think if that would solve everything. But right now they're having struggles not only with the losses, but very sparse crowds. At first at SoFi Stadium, and then some of the other venues they've been going to, the fans just aren't behind it as much. So I don't know. I turn to you guys who both come from probably better football nations, but what is the secret sauce? How do you turn it around?
I was going to say you're in a bit of a pickle because your stadiums are huge. So
Yeah.
when they are empty, they look very, very empty indeed. You might still have like tens of thousands of people in there, but they still look empty on TV. It's tough, isn't it? And obviously the Major League Soccer was supposed to help contribute to the American national team, but it doesn't seem to have done that.
Yeah, I was going to say the only piece of advice I can maybe give the MLS is when the Indian Super League was launched in 2014. I was a part of that for a few years, and the one brilliant thing they did when they didn't have enough fans, they had every peanut vendor, every roadside seller of everything. And India is where a lot of people just put bums in seats, get them off the streets, get them sampling Indian football, and they'll come back for a bit more if they like it. And I'm not joking. This is some of the stuff that happened just to get people to sample what football was all about, because it was kind of bringing a new sport into a culture, which is what America has done. I will say American football or soccer is so far ahead of India still in many ways. So while we've got the numbers in many ways, I think filling a football stadium is still such a tough task. I think the only way to do it in India is say there's a cricket game going on and maybe get people in and then say, surprise, it's football. That might work.
I want to stay in the U.S. if we can momentarily. A big event that I actually had a chance to call, SailGP, which a lot of people refer to as the Formula One of sailing, the SailGP event number 5, which was in San Francisco, really iconic sail racing area. And I don't know if you saw this, you can find it on YouTube or Google it, but the Australians, their main wing collapsed. We're talking about like a 24-meter carbon fiber wing that just collapsed at the start of a race. It is just jaw-dropping video. That took the Australians out of the competition. They would have been in the final. They don't get it. Spain goes on to beat Canada and Great Britain, and they are the season 4 defending champions. So it was a great event in San Francisco. It was a back-to-back event for SailGP. They're trying to do something along the lines of Formula One, and they did back-to-back events, 2 different venues, Los Angeles and San Francisco. Not a big move, about 400 miles up the west coast of California, but it was a big, big moment for them. And so SailGP checks some big boxes there. But that video, if you get a chance to check it out, SailGP, San Francisco, Australia wing collapse. It is amazing. And just this weekend in Miami, Ed's second favorite town, Czech teenager Jakub Mensik beat his childhood idol Novak Djokovic in the final of the Miami Open. And that was after he nearly pulled out of first-round match injury just hours before. And I still can't get over this, how he did this. I mean, Ed, you're a big tennis guy. How does a Czech teenager, we've all been there, but he pulls this off and beats his childhood idol?
I don't know if we've all been there with a Czech teenager, but yes. No, what
We've all
I
been
do love
teenagers.
no, what I love about this story is, yes, he was going to withdraw before his first round match against Roberto Bautista Agut, and he went to the referee's office. The referee was out for lunch.
Yeah.
That's the only reason he wasn't able to withdraw from the tournament. I mean, that is some kind of happenstance.
And his physio talked him into it. He's like, you got to go. Just keep going.
It's incredible, though, because it's someone he's looked up to. It's someone he's had on his walls. He's actually the first Czech player in 20 years since Thomas Berdych went on to win a Masters title. And guess what? He's won his first title at a Miami 1000 event.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous to think about. And this guy's, honestly, he's built for big things. We said this. I was working on the Australian Open, and we said, coming in, João Fonseca and Jakub Mensik, 2 guys to watch for the season going forward. And I think they put themselves on the map, and it's good to watch.
And poor Djokovic must be wondering, am I ever going to get this 100th ATP title?
Seriously, he'll get it eventually. We know that, but it was a great turn of events. And I thought to myself when it happened, I saw the results. I thought, this is why we love sports, because on any given day, any one or any team can beat another team. You just never know. So in America, I don't know if this is ending on a high note or a low note, but you guys be the judge of this. Tiger Woods, maybe the world's most famous golfer, has announced that he is in a relationship with President Trump's former daughter-in-law, but he has asked for privacy. Good luck with that.
I love how it went public asking for privacy. And that was the weirdest irony of events that went on, especially given that it was Tiger Woods and he's generally hush-hush about the way he goes about his life. Maybe he changed his PR officer. I don't know, but the one thing is, I know Kai Trump is going to be getting really good golf lessons, so maybe there's a positive spin in there, Todd. Don't worry, it's in there, it's in there. But speaking of golf, by the way, India just completed the Hero Indian Open. Eugenio Chakarra just won that as well, and at a really tricky course in Delhi, and that's massive news coming in from the golfing world. A big tournament, India's biggest Open as well. So good news from the Indian golfing world. Bad news that an Indian did not win it. But that all just gets swept under the carpet because, as you know, when April and May rolls around in India, we only talk about one thing, guys. So my update from the world of sport in India has to start with the IPL. It has started. It started with a bang. There's a lot of talk about certain big name players, and we'll touch upon them in just a bit, like Rohit Sharma and MS Dhoni, and a lot of questions being asked of form, why they're batting in certain positions, and all of that. But at the same time, while all of the talk about the IPL is going on, a legend of Indian sport, and the term legend isn't to be used lightly when it comes to this guy, five-time Olympian, a guy that was ranked 400 in the world of table tennis, moved into the top 30 in the world. He's left a legacy behind, inspired the next generation, almost whimsical that he got beaten in his last ever match by a young Indian talent at a WTT Star Contender event in Chennai at his hometown. Had this swan song, but Sharat Kamal, who was our Olympian for the last, couple of decades, flew the flag for us at the Paris Olympics as well. He bows out of Indian table tennis and leaves, honestly, a gaping hole in many ways. He has promised to stay within the sport, and that's great news for all of young Indian table tennis talent. Also, big news actually when it comes to talking about Olympics and India. It's not necessarily from India, but I'll tell you why it's important, is that we've got a new head of the IOC in Kirsty Coventry. Now, she takes over from Thomas Bach as the new elected head. First female president, first African as well. Great news for Kirsty Coventry, but maybe not the best news for India, because I know Seb Coe, who is also running up against Kirsty Coventry, was a big supporter of India and India's bid for the Olympic Games in 2036. And by virtue of losing out, I just wonder how that's going to impact India's bid for the Olympic Games as well. And there's so much that's gone into India's real move towards 2036. Infrastructure, billions being spent in Gujarat in terms of building a sports city, all round buzz around it as well, getting so much more into it for the Indian sporting culture to come into the picture as well. But I guess time will tell to see how this plays out in terms of India's bid. But brilliant news, as we said earlier, in terms of the new elected head and the president of the IOC being Kirsty Coventry.
Yeah, very interesting. You can bet, though, if India does get the Olympics in 2036, there is one sport that they will be wishing A, will feature, and then B, assuming they will win the golden, and that is cricket, set to be part of LA 2028. It's funny you mentioned the IPL. I'm very much looking forward to getting into that shortly, Suhail, but it feels a little bit less monumental this year. I don't know. Maybe it's just because it's been less than a month since India won the ICC Champions Trophy. I don't know if people have stopped celebrating over there yet. But do you feel there is too much cricket going on? We've gone straight from ICC Champions Trophy to now the IPL.
I'd love to say it's maybe because I'm not on the broadcast every night, but no, that's definitely not the case. It might be an overkill. I don't know. Look, I think when we see the numbers at the end of it, it'll still be staggering. There'll still be 800 million people who'll tune in. It's just one of those things that just stays on behind you while you're in your living room at 7:30 p.m. onwards. And I've got a little tab that's telling me RCB's or MI are doing pretty well against KKR today. But it's just one of those things that's just somewhere at the back of every Indian's mind in April and May. It is a behemoth. It's a beast when it rolls around. It is a carnival. It's an extravaganza when it does roll around every single year. And there's only about a 700 or 800 million viewership that follows. Just a tiny
Just a little one.
just a little one. But guys, it's got off to a big start. However, there's some big names who haven't quite brought the goods just yet. I know the Mumbai Indians are generally slow starters. They are one of the most successful teams in the IPL, but they've lost 2 from 2. They are playing as we record tonight as well, and will be interesting to see if they can get that first win under their belt. Rohit Sharma, the skipper, has scored just 8 runs from the first two games, and that's become a huge talking point across the globe when it comes to cricketing fans. Also, big news is MS Dhoni, and whenever we say the words MS Dhoni, it's eyeballs and ears tuned in, because the man has done most things right when it comes to his career. He is, however, ailing. And I think it needs to be said that his body is not the same as it was a few years ago. I actually had a chance to catch up with him recently at a book launch that I was hosting in Chennai. And I asked him just one question. I said, MS, how's the body doing? And in typical MS Dhoni fashion, all he said was, surviving, I'm doing good. And it's kind of just essays what MS Dhoni is. He's almost this quintessential, straightforward human being who'll tell you everything as it is. But unfortunately, he's come under a lot of fire because he's been batting at number 9 in the batting order. He's come in when the match is pretty much done and dusted for Chennai. But I think Stephen Fleming, the coach, has come out yesterday finally and actually just said what needed to be said, which is, look, they value MS Dhoni at the Chennai Super Kings enough to have him in that squad for his wicketkeeping, for his leadership, for his brain that is the master tactician that he is. Having said that, though, the body is slowing down, and so only MS can judge when is the perfect time for him to go out to bat. Sometimes it's not going to be ideal from a fan perspective. Sometimes it will when he sees the games in the balance, as he did the previous night. He did go up the order a little bit in terms of the number of overs spent, but we've seen it in the last few seasons as well. He tends to bat between the 15th and the 20th over, and when it comes off, it looks brilliant. When it doesn't come off, it can look really scrappy. And unfortunately, it's looked scrappy in the first few games for the Chennai Super Kings, who've got off to a pretty slow start, and they've got a real passionate fan base, and those that are outside of that fan base will go at them when they're losing as well. So a few key sort of figures that haven't quite fired. I like the look of RCB, who haven't yet won a title, and as a Chennai boy, I can say that with a smile on my face. But Bangalore, maybe this is their season, and I don't know if that jinxes it, but maybe this could be their season. They started brilliantly with 2 wins from 2. Delhi Capitals have looked good. Lucknow Super Giants, for me, look like a really slick side as well. And there's a couple of others in the mix, including the Rajasthan Royals for me, that are looking like they've got the chops. And the Punjab Kings are another dark horse for me to look forward to in this campaign. And who knows, maybe we'll get a first-time champion out of the IPL in 2025. But I guess the big news is it's rolled around, it's started, and everyone's watching.
You mentioned, maybe we'll see a first-time champion, a new champion. I'm looking forward to maybe seeing the first 300 score in this IPL as well. I know they're continuing the impact player rule, which allows teams to play an extra batter, substituting a bowler in a match. It means we're going to see big scores climbing again. 287 for 3, Hyderabad against Bengaluru is the new benchmark. Do you think we're going to see a post-300 tally in this IPL?
Do you know what? I would not bet against it. I would actually say I think we will. And I think it could be the Sunrisers that do it. Now, we've seen this with the Sunrisers. They go hard early and they keep going hard. Even if they lose wickets, we saw it yesterday or a couple of days ago. They were 120 for 6, but they just kept going hard. They lost that game, but it's just so typical of this new brand, this new brash brand of cricket that the Sunrisers are being allowed to play under Pat Cummins. And it's kind of this Aussie dominance that is factored in as well. You've got Travis Head at the top of the order. You've got Abhishek Sharma at the top of the order as well. But then you've got these others, a youngster like Aniket Verma, who's come into that side. He's kind of just slotted in perfectly into the way that they play their game. You've got a Heinrich Klaassen later. Pat Cummins with the bat is no mug either. So they've got this really nice confidence about them, but it seems to be stemming from the management, from Pat Cummins, from Travis Head, and this spark of confidence is just kind of rippling through each and every player. And it's awesome to watch for the fans as well, because you know that they're just going to keep coming at the opposition.
Just picking up on, you mentioned, emerging Indian stars coming through. It ties in quite nicely to an interview I did, which will be on this show as well, and a separate video as well for this Sporting Planet about Indonesian football and the fact that naturalization is helping the Indonesian national team reach their desired goal, perhaps, of their first ever World Cup appearance. But the league itself, the domestic league, is really lacking.
Yeah.
Whereas in the IPL, it seems to be it's such a great feeder for eventually the Indian national team as well. I think Hardik Pandya, Jasprit Bumrah, Shubman Gill, they all made their names in the IPL first before becoming regulars in the Indian national team. I mean, this just seems to be the perfect setup for India, right?
It is, and I think, look, I look at my own career. I was brought back to play the IPL under, under the age of 23, and unfortunately, I've had the two knee injuries that kept me out of it. But I would have got my IPL debut well before I'd got my Ranji Trophy debut, which is, playing for your state. And it's one of those things that just gives you the launch pad in a single game to put yourself in the mix for national contention. Rian Parag, a young guy that I know really well, who's now the captain of the Rajasthan Royals. He's been a part of their team for a long time, and he's kind of done it the hard way. He's been, made fun of on the world of social media, of course, which is the easiest thing to do, unfortunately, with anyone and everyone jumping on his back. But he's turned that around, and just from a couple of really good IPL knocks, he's put himself in the mix of being a part of the Indian side as a permanent fixture, and several others. You mentioned a few names. Ravichandran Ashwin, I'll add to that as well. He was a batter when I played junior cricket with him, became an off-spin bowler, and went on to become India's most successful off-spinner in Test cricket history. So, there's such a huge opportunity that comes in with the IPL as well. And I just think what it did for the world of cricket since 2008, and we're only talking 15 years here, 15, 16 years, it has changed the entire sport, and it's revolutionized the way the sport is looked at. It's gone to America in terms of now heading to LA in 2028. So it's funny that one tournament has just changed the course of a sport and the future of a sport.
No, I mean, it's incredible. You see all the other franchise T20 competitions now, Big Bash, Caribbean Premier League, Pakistan Super League, Major League Cricket, International League T20. Are there too many now, do you think, Suhail?
Yeah, I think there are. And I think, having now put the other hat on as a CEO of a sports franchise as well, and I'm always on the lookout of seeing whether any of these, franchises make sense to buy into. I think there's not many that actually make money. Having said that, the IPL is so far ahead of everything else, maybe barring the 100. And I think a lot of English fans will like hearing this, because the 100 now gets a huge injection of cash courtesy of IPL franchises. $100 million have been spent per franchise pretty much from Indian IPL franchises. And that is money that no English county has ever seen before. So there's suddenly this injection of cash. The 100 has got more eyeballs on it. So I think the 100 will kind of be the next one to be watched. The SA20 in South Africa is a fantastic tournament. So for me, the SA20, the 100, the Big Bash has gone backwards, I think, unfortunately, because of the unavailability of the local Aussie stars and the icon players. And I think that's integral for the success of a league. But the IPL is still so far ahead of everything else.
So, hell, let me ask you this, and a quick question for you. Do you think any other leagues around the world, like the NFL or anything else, the Premier League, can learn something from the IPL? What would it be?
Well, I'm gonna stick my neck out and say, Todd,
Go
I
ahead.
know this is gonna be a debatable one in your part of the world, but I think the IPL and IPL franchises are inside the top 5 most lucrative sports franchises in the world already. And I'm again talking about a span of under 15 years. IPL teams are being valued at close to $2 billion. And I do think that there's a seriousness about it that will trickle into other parts of the world. I mean, a name like Virat Kohli, a name like MS Dhoni, a name like Rohit Sharma is already pretty much known to a lot of households across America. And I don't just mean the Indian diaspora in America as well. So I think the World Cup being there, these guys featuring pretty heavily, did a lot of good. But I actually think the IPL franchises are as big in terms of popularity, just given the population that tunes into it, as an NFL franchise or an NBA franchise or an MLB franchise. And that's a big statement, but I'm going to back it.
Let me just rattle through what's happening on my side of things. We heard from Todd earlier on about the men's side of the draw at the Miami Open. In the women's side of the draw, Filipino Alexandra Ayala had a remarkable run at the Miami Open. She made it all the way to the semifinals, where she lost to Jessica Pegula. I mean, she beat the likes of Ostapenko, Keys, and Swiatek during her run. Those ladies with many, many titles under their belts. So what a fantastic result that was for Alexandra. Just this weekend, you might see I'm a little bit bit sunburnt on my nose. I was outside at the FIBA 3x3 Asia Cup here in Singapore. Australia won both the men's and women's competitions. I got to say 3x3, I don't know if you've experienced it, Todd particularly as well, but it is so fast and furious.
Yeah.
10-minute games, first to 21 points. You just turn it around and you can see possession. It's right back to offense again. It's an incredible sport.
Can I just say something, guys? India and 3-on-3 would have never been mentioned in the same breath, but India almost beat China in a 3-on-3 game 2 days ago. We lost 19-21.
Wow.
Who knows? Maybe 3-on-3 is the answer to India's next sport.
That was right here in Singapore, that match. Moving on to Europe, which Natalie would, of course, normally cover for us. France won rugby's Six Nations for the first time since 2022. They secured the title in Paris with victory against a really tough Scottish side. And staying with rugby, the coaching team has been announced for the British and Irish Lions tour of Australia. So under head coach Andy Farrell will be Simon Easterby, John Fogarty and Andrew Goodman from Ireland, John Dalziel from Scotland and Richard Wigglesworth from England. And I feel so much has happened in the past couple of months, or last month, I think, was the last time we checked in. Of course, the Formula One season has got underway for me as an F1 fan and having presented it for many years for Fox Sports in this part of the world. It has been so exciting to have it back, and then so exciting to see what a couple of races we've had. Lando Norris winning the first race in Australia before teammate Oscar Piastri's win in China saw McLaren win the first 2 races of the season. And then, of course, the big news ahead of the third race in Japan, Red Bull dropping their newest driver, Liam Lawson, after just 2 races, replacing him with Japanese star Yuki Tsunoda, who, of course, was overlooked for that seat at the very start of the season.
Yeah, on the subject of Formula One, and given that it is my first episode with you guys as a co-host, I figured why one Chandhok when you can have 2 guys. So I have got Karun along, and it's a good time to chat about F1 on a well-timed break. Hi, Karun.
Wow, what a thrill this is. 2 Chandhoks for the price of 1. Actually, I don't know what your price is, so I won't go there. You might be paying double. Karen, I just got to ask, we've been talking about Formula One. We're not easing into this season now. We're 2 races in. So much has happened already. Chief amongst them, Liam Lawson's demotion, Yuki Tsunoda going up. What do you make about that whole decision? Because it was only a few months ago that Tsunoda was overlooked for that seat. Now Lawson's been moved down and Yuki's suddenly the man to take over.
Yeah, to be honest, the whole thing is just messy. I'm a bit disappointed with the way it's been handled in some ways, but also in the way it's turned out for Liam, because I really thought over the winter that he was the right choice for the team over Yuki, if I'm honest. I think last year they were kind of equal, but in the end, I thought he was an equal for Yuki, having only done 11 races and Yuki having done 4 years. So his trajectory was clearly on the up. I think what's clear is that the way that these rookies and these young drivers are being prepared to move into the top Red Bull seat, whether it's, you rewind a bit, Albon, Gasly, Daniel Kvyat before that, and Liam, it's clearly not enough in the same way that, for example, Mercedes have prepared Kimi Antonelli. Antonelli's done 10,000 kilometers of testing. They've taken, an older car all around the world to multiple circuits for him to get experience and get confidence. Liam's just been dropped into it with a day and a half of testing with the new car, a little bit of testing with the old car. I think he only got a day at Jerez.
No.
So, I think if I was Red Bull, Yuki's gonna have a chance, and who knows how he'll go. It's a fascinating sort of subplot to the Japanese GP to see how both Yuki and Liam go, to be honest. But I think big picture, Red Bull need to think about how they're preparing these young drivers.
I think that's something I wanted to talk to you about, right? You've sampled being a part of that Red Bull Junior program. Your first test was alongside DC in a Red Bull car. 2 parts. One, where do they go from here with that Red Bull program? You've got an Isaac Hadjar in there, but obviously the shuffling. And 2, how much pressure is there when you're part of a program like that?
There's pressure in every program. I think the difference with the Red Bull program is they're not opposed to chopping and changing middle of the season, whereas others tend to wait till the end of the year. But honestly, F1's not a finishing school. F1's not a place where you have to arrive as the finished product. You're there to be one of the 20 best drivers in the world. You're not there to listen and learn. You get a little bit of a grace period where you're allowed to be maybe 3-4 tenths off your teammate for a few races, but that's it. You can't be half a second off in F1. It just doesn't work. You've got to be 2-3 tenths. So the pressure is on all of them. The pressure to perform is on all of them. I think the only difference is Red Bull are a bit more brutal mid-season, but ultimately, they're investing a lot of money and they expect results. But I think what they have to be fair to these guys about is preparing them in the right way. Because what is clear is that the main Red Bull team, the car is tricky to drive. Multiple drivers, as I said, have come through it, and they've gone on to do good things. Albon's doing an amazing job at Williams.
Yeah.
Gasly is doing a great job at Alpine. Even Perez was doing a great job at Force India before. And who knows how Liam will do now in the Racing Bulls. So I think as I said, there's a big picture, two things to consider. One is, do they have to make the car easier to drive? But that's a tougher one to answer, because if you make a car easier to drive, typically, you also make it slower. And you don't want to make Max Verstappen slower. He's your number one top dog.
Yeah.
So it's actually a very tough position they've got themselves into.
Yeah, it's interesting that Mario and Reddy talked about how Lawson's chopping now has sort of put Sergio Perez in good light for Cadillac, and we'll go into all of that when 2026 rolls around. But on the positive side of things, someone that's come in straight up with pace, Oscar Piastri, how impressive has he been to you, to everyone in the paddock? Because it just seems like he's got the mental chops to cut it at the highest level.
I think, but if you think of the example I was just saying, rookies can't mess around. They don't have time to dial themselves in. Oscar's an example of that.
Yeah.
He's been like Leclerc, like Max, like Lewis before. He's arrived second race in Saudi Arabia. He was an equal for Lando and I qualified him. He was there in his rookie season for pace. Needed to gain experience in the races, was struggling with tire wear, corrected a lot of that last season, and he's taken another step up. In China, he was absolutely dominant. And actually, frankly, if you look at the whole season so far, he's had one bad corner when the rain came down in Melbourne. Otherwise, he looked quicker than Lando in the race. He was catching Lando, he's putting pressure on Lando. So really, he got unlucky being on the wrong tires when the rain came down. And he's been outstanding this year. And I'm excited to see. Lando is a super fast driver, no doubt about it. He's exceptionally fast. But we saw in China, he made mistakes in both the qualifying sessions, made a mistake on the opening lap of the sprint. So as the season unfolds, he'll have to stop making those mistakes, because in terms of speed, they're there, but the consistency from both sides. Oscar had some bad weekends last year as well, where he was 4-5 tenths away from Lando. So they both got to find that consistency.
Just tell us a bit about papaya rules, actually, Karun, because if it does...
It's an idiotic name. That's what it is.
Okay, yeah, well, aside from that, if the season does pan out that it is which McLaren driver will win the championship, at what point do they decide to enforce team orders?
I think as long as they're both mathematically in it, and especially they're both fighting quite close on points, they can't have team orders.
Right.
They've got to have sensible team orders, like don't take each other out and things like that. But for example, we saw with the strategy in a race like Melbourne, when the weather was changing and stuff like that, only one driver could have the right strategy, and they have to give it to the lead car. And Oscar lost out on that occasion with track position. So that's where it starts to get a bit tricky, right? Is who do you have to then, if they're running 1-2, they're running close together strategically, you have to give the lead car the right call. I think that's a fair way to do it. But so McLaren, honestly, if it comes to it, that's a good problem to have. If you have to think about team orders, then you're doing okay. So I think
That's a good
that's
point.
a headache everyone would like.
I guess, Karun, before I let you go, I know we're on a little bit of a breather and a family holiday, so I know the kids are waiting as well.
It's fine. This podcast is helping me stop him smashing me in pickleballs. Need a bit of respite.
Have to also ask you about your book. He's just written a kid's book on Formula One and motorsport. So maybe tell everyone around the world a little bit about that, because it's a pretty unique twist on motorsport and something that's not quite accessible normally.
Well, I mean, I don't think anyone wants to read my life story, and I don't really feel like writing about it. But I thought there's a lot of people around the world who the kids are now into F1. There's such a wave of interest in the sport and kids coming into it. But actually, there isn't a book out there to teach the kids a bit more about how racetracks are made, how are cars made, what happens in a race team. Also telling them a little bit of what jobs they could get if they want to work in F1. It's not just being a driver. And, I went on tour to schools and, talking to school kids from the age of 7 to 13, which is sort of age group for the book. And you start to tell them, you can be a chef in a Formula One team. You can be a psychologist. You can, obviously they think of mechanics in a pit stop and they think of maybe engineers, but they don't think of all of these other things, accountants, finance, marketing, there's so many different things. And, I wanted to put something out there to inspire kids to learn a bit more about the sport, get excited about maybe working in the sport one day. Wanted to make the book affordable, so it's a black and white paperback. Want to make it affordable.
Nice.
There's lots of other books out there which are picture books and glossy things, but they don't actually teach the kids anything. And so I think also for me, we have a rich history of the sport. And now when I travel around, for a lot of kids, F1 started with Netflix. F1 started with Lando Norris. They have no idea who Michael Schumacher is.
That's
And
insane.
so I think it's really important to explain to people who Jim Clark was and Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna. None of these names are even on their radar anymore. So yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun promoting it out and about, and it's been fun seeing it on the shelves as well. It's even in Melbourne, I was leaving Melbourne after the Grand Prix, after the first race, and it was on the shelves at the airport. So that was pretty exciting. So yeah, no, it's been a fun project.
Yeah, Karun, thanks so much for joining us. I'm gonna let you head off back to San Francisco.
Yeah.
And
See you later.
Thank you so much, Karun.
yeah, it's weird, isn't it? I mean, I think the hype around McLaren and how quick they are versus the results that haven't quite gone their way. It's kind of brought Max back into the fight. It's brought Ferrari into the fight as well. And I think, like he said, F1 in 2025 seems to be on this incredible knife's edge, which is why there's more and more viewers tuning in as well. And it just makes the season even better.
And just a reminder, in between episodes, you can keep up to date with all the global sports news on our social channels and YouTube page, including full-length interviews with all our guests. Give us a follow, subscribe, and share with all your friends and family. Plus, please do leave us a review, especially if it's nice.
Coming up later, we'll be discussing the start of the new MLB season, which got underway in Tokyo recently. Has Shohei Ohtani picked up where he left off in 2024? We've been asking that exact question, or Todd has really, to former pitcher Jay Jackson. But first, I want to talk about Indonesian men's football because there is a real chance the team could qualify for their first World Cup ever. Now, after a heavy defeat to Australia, Patrick Kluivert picked up his first win as head coach with a 1-0 victory over Bahrain, meaning they are right back in the mix to make it to the showpiece event in 2026. And to find out a little bit more about what's going on with the Indonesian football and how Kluivert's got on since arriving, I've been speaking to journalist Tio Utomo.
We are a football crazy country. I mean, since I mean, because I'm journalist and also football fan. So yeah, I support Indonesia since dark age when we lost against Malaysia, against Singapore. Even though we cannot beat Thailand in all the finals in the IFF Championship. In the 90s Tiger Cup name. So yeah, this is the exciting time. So yeah, we are looking forward in Indonesia. If we can go through the World Cup, it's really good. I mean, we have a 1001 problems in the country right now, but with the football, everyone's will forget the problems for a while, and then yeah, this is it's a fun era for Indonesia national.
I was going to say, if you called that the Dark Ages, I guess this is like the Renaissance. Just tell us, what would it mean to the country if they were to qualify for that World Cup next year?
Well, there is a jokes in Indonesia right now. If we have in Jakarta, we have the monuments, the Monas. I mean, our national monuments, and there's a gold in the top of the monuments. So if we qualify to the World Cup, and if someone stole that gold when we qualify the World Cup, people don't care anything about that. So I mean, that's the standard that if we qualify to the World Cup, well, people will forget anything about, and then people not only forget but forgive for everything that people did to them. I mean, this euphoria you never experienced before. If you remember last year when Indonesia in under 23 Asian Cup when we won against South Korea in the penalty shootout. So yeah, after that, all Indonesian people, especially even my mom never watching football, and she just called me like, Indonesia just won. Yeah, you watch it. So yeah, everyone's like, even though like people who doesn't care about football, they just care right now.
Obviously, that 1-0 victory against Bahrain really helped your aspirations for qualification. Ollie Remini scored that winning goal. It was, 10 days, I think, after he made his debut. How much potential does he show as a player, and how big a figure could he be for this team?
So yeah, Ole Rummenigge is our final puzzle for the strikers. I mean, like in the past 5 years, Sintayong before Patrick Kluivert, he rotated from Rafael Strike, Ramadan Sananta, Hoki Caraka, others players. But when we have Ole Rummenigge since Australian against Australia, but even though we lost like 5-1, but he showed us his capability. I mean, like he's versatile. He not only like the target man, he sometimes can pick up the ball in the midfields and help defend to I mean like to press the players opponent. So yeah, this is the final puzzle that we need in these teams, because like yeah, in the past 5 years we don't have this kind of profile strikers like Ole Romeni.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned new faces. There are so many new players as well who've all gone through this naturalization process in the past couple of years. Do you think the country is behind that as a principle? Is it kind of like short-term gain? You get these guys in, they've got experience, they're going to get you to the World Cup? Or do you feel like you'd still wish there are a few more like, native Indonesians in there?
Well, if you see that every time our FIFA match day, we have one or two new players,
Yeah.
and like I mean, like this match day we have Joel Pelosi, Dean James, even Emil Audero, and then Ole Romeni. So yeah, it's good for us, but the thing is, yeah, we can, because our history with the Dutch and the other European countries. So uh, yeah, it's good for us that we can naturalize our players who have a heritage from Indonesia. But the thing is that if you want to have a long term, you need to fix the quality of the leagues, our local league as well, because I mean, like, yes, we happy with the national team right now, but some of the peoples in Indonesia also thinking like, yeah, if our national team happy, we also need to fix our local league. I mean, like sometimes we can see in the Asians competitions, like Indonesia teams. Sometimes they cannot like compete with Singapore, Malaysia, and also Thailand, even Vietnam. Sometimes we lost against Philippines football team. So there is a long road to that. But yeah, I mean, like the World Cup is near for us, and then maybe along the way. So yeah, people know the Indonesian national team have a good quality players, and then some of the players who plays in our local league also can, yeah, like Marcelo, I mean like Rizky Rido and also Ricky Kambuaya who coming from the bench. So yeah, people knows like the quality from the players. So it's, yeah, the players there, but yeah, we need to fix to make our national league is better. I mean, like for the long term, yeah. For the short terms, yeah, we can have. I mean that there's a lot of rumor. You also heard a lot of naturalization players who coming to Indonesia in the next years. But yeah, for me as a football fans, we want to. I mean, like long term, we want to establish not only national teams but our league also. Became one of the contender in, not maybe starting with the Southeast Asia first and then the Asia, because even though in Southeast Asia, I I can I still cannot believe thinking that our team can beat example like GDT. I mean, like is a good club, and
Yeah.
also team from Thailand. So yeah, for long term, yeah, national team is good. Okay, we are happy, and even though if we qualify to World Cup, yes, we are also really happy. But in the long term, yeah, we want to see our league back to the number one in Southeast Asian, and can compete with the other Asian clubs.
Yeah, really interesting speaking to Tio. I've been to Indonesia many times for football, and I got to say, they are amongst the most passionate fans I've ever seen. It really is kind of like streets come to a standstill when Indonesia are playing. And despite the fact that there are so many naturalized players now, it seems like Indonesia are getting behind them just as they would their own Indonesian boys. Just Todd and Suhail, what do you make of naturalization? Is it something that occurs in your regions, in your favorite sports? Do you feel it is a good idea that you had the best players playing, or does it take away from the born and bred stars a little bit?
It's funny you say that, Edward. For a country of 1.4 billion, we shouldn't need naturalization. We shouldn't need to import people to come and play for us. But unfortunately, I think we do need to, especially in the sport that you just talked about, which is soccer or football. And I think, I'll break it up into a couple of maybe segments. One is it depends on the sport. And I think you've got to kind of park the ego aside and say, you know what, we need the help and maybe we need the outside intervention to then make our domestic players better. And I think football is a perfect example. We've just brought a 40-year-old out of retirement, Sunil Chetri, to come back and try and score goals for us. And guess what? He did score goals on his return to the Indian side as well. But that's not a good thing. And I don't think Sunil Chetri coming back to play for the Indian national side is a great thing at all. And for me, therefore, when it comes to sports like that, I'm in favor of naturalization, and we've seen a few cases where it hasn't necessarily happened, and India is not really in favor of dual citizenship either. So I do hope that the government will actually make those changes in laws, and maybe we should see a few adopted sons of the soil for India when it comes to certain sports.
I like it. I personally like it, and I think it's a way to honor your heritage. I know some snowboarders and some skiers whose grandparents, hey, I might not make the U.S. snowboard team because it's such a high level, but I have a grandfather that's Irish, and I don't know how good the Irish snowboard team is, but I'd like to represent them. In those cases, I really like it. And if you have, parents that have dual citizenship and you can't make this team, or you feel really drawn towards the Chinese free skiing team in case of
Yeah.
Eileen Gu, I think it's there's no problem with it. I think where you get into, I guess, I'm gonna say a problematic area or gray area is, what is your motivation? Is it just because, hey, I want to win a title? I don't care who I win it with. I've got a great 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 grandfather 16 times removed that played in Brazil one summer. I'm Brazilian now, or something of that nature. Then I think it's a little slippery slope. But if you're honoring your family heritage, something like that, I say let it go.
I will say one thing. I'm just looking at my own life a little bit, and my mum has an American passport. I had the option of obviously changing and becoming an American. And if I knew cricket was going to be at LA 2028, I would have got a knee replacement a long time ago. Changed countries and nationalities, and maybe made the American side, which I would have easily made as well.
So you're
I
saying
tried.
there's a chance. Here we go. Say, hey, let's go. Stars and
Turn up and play
stripes.
for America in an Olympic Games. That would have been the dream. Why not?
No, like it's fair to say as well that, yeah, Indonesia, they might be the most notable exponents of naturalization in this part of the world. They're not the only ones. The ASEAN Championship took place recently in January. Players born in, this is ASEAN, by the way, Japan, Colombia, South Africa, Argentina, Sweden, Norway, and Ivory Coast, they all featured. A funny one, the man who took home both the most valuable player and top scorer awards, his name is Nguyen Xuan Son. He wasn't born Xuan Son. He's not even from Vietnam. His actual name is Rafael Sambater Fernandez, and he's from Brazil. But he was
That's a new
instrumental in
one.
leading
That's
Vietnam to their
amazing.
third regional title. Yeah, no, it's incredible. When you're doing commentary and stuff, you're like, hang on, is that Nguyen? Really, that guy? But no, it's a very interesting thing, and yeah, the Qatari football team as well, particularly in the Middle East, I guess, because it has such an influx of people from all over the world, particularly from Africa, North Africa. That's seen a lot of naturalized players as well. Actually, going back to the IPL, in a way, one of the problems when you do have naturalization is availability. And we talk about availability for the Big Bash and the IPL and stuff like that. The ASEAN Championship, because it wasn't a FIFA sanctioned tournament, they weren't allowed to take Indonesia, their naturalized Dutch players, out of the Dutch league or the European leagues where they're playing. And they absolutely bombed out of that tournament because the Indonesian players had no experience playing at that level anymore.
Well, one of the biggest sports stars on the planet returned to the field this month as the new Major League Baseball season began in Japan. Of course, Shohei Ohtani and the rest of his LA Dodgers team secured back-to-back victories against the Chicago Cubs in Tokyo series. And with the MLB saying the two-game series drew, get this, guys, an average audience of 24 million viewers. Now, all eyes are back on stadiums in America as spring training has now turned to the regular season. And to help me analyze who we should watch out for this year, go San Francisco Giants, I've enlisted the help of former pitcher for the San Francisco Giants, Atlanta Braves, Minnesota Twins, and many more. Here's Jay Jackson. Why is there such a big connection, do you think, between Japan and baseball? And it obviously goes beyond the recent crop of Japanese stars like Ohtani and Yamamoto, right?
No, it definitely goes beyond that. You see the guys that came before them, the Dice K's, one of my old teammates, Hiroki Kuroda. You see, Godzilla. You see all the guys that came over. And baseball is literally their country's main sport, besides sumo wrestling. And sumo is great. I love sumo to death, but there's always going to be a fondness of baseball there. Baseball's been their main sport, their love, their favorite pastime. It's supposed to be America's favorite pastime, but it's probably really Japan's favorite pastime, right? But the love they have for that sport and the energy they show for the teams and the guys there, it's just unbelievable. Me playing there personally, you always see the support. There's never, I feel like, in America, we have a tendency if guys don't perform well, there's a lot of negativity behind it, right? We start tearing them down. We break them down here and there. Over there, it's the complete opposite. If you're playing baseball, they respect you enough to be like, hey, you're doing a hard job, so just keep going. We're going to support you no matter what. And so I think, it's a blessing to be over there, and the fondness they have and the respect for the game they have just shows through. And look at how many fans showed up every game over there.
You mentioned you played in Japan. How unique are the Japanese fans, not only in baseball, but just in the world of sport in general?
They are unbelievable. I think we take our sports here for granted a lot, but I think in other countries, especially Japan, they realize how impressive and how awesome it is to be able to play those sports and how much dedication and time it takes. And they just respect it a little bit more. I mean, the fans over there, they love you so much. They treat you, I tell guys all the time, it's a give and take, because the stardom that you have over there for baseball, you don't get to see it over here as much. You see the same stardom over here with the football and the basketball players, but over there we get treated like that. And I never wanted to leave, but it was unbelievable. I had a great time. They treated me so well. And just like I said, they respect everything you do and they respect who you are at all times.
Coming back to the States, Shohei Ohtani came up big last year for the Dodgers. Do you think he and the LA Dodgers can do the same in 2025?
100%. They reloaded the whole team without really missing a beat, right? They didn't really lose a lot, but they also gained a lot more. They add Snell, they get Trinan back, they add Yates, they add Tanner Scott, all the additions they have. They got Teoscar back, even though he had more money on the table from other teams.
Right.
We got to talk to Teoscar a little bit during the offseason when I was working out. He works out with one of the trainers that I know down in Tampa. And, he wants to win. He's a great guy, and the organization they have and the way they treat their players in LA, from everybody I've talked to, everybody wants to go to LA and play. And you see how guys, they're paying the guys, but at the same time, guys are taking probably less money to go there so they have a chance to win. But I think it's also the culture they've built there as well. But they definitely have a chance to do the same thing over again. They didn't lose anything and gain more. It's going to be interesting to see how they play. I mean, right now, at this taping, they're 7-0.
7-0.
And just rolling them off. I don't think there's really been a true, really hard game for them yet. So I think the first two in Japan were probably just a little bit tougher just because of the time difference, the stadium and all those things. But when they've come home, you see the games they've had, they've been playing really good baseball the whole time.
So if the Dodgers are the favorites in 2025 and they would be the first repeat champions if they could do it since 2000, who are the teams that you think are most likely capable and or able to stop them?
In the National League, you got to see the Phillies. The Phillies have such a talented team, and they've got a good playoff pedigree. They've got a lot of championship ball players on there that have been in, Dicey's just was gone to the World Series, gone and played in big games, right? They've played the Dodgers a lot of times, and they've given them some tough times and some tough matchups. I think that's what it's going to come down to. And then you have the Braves. I think once they figure it out a little bit, they're struggling a little bit right now. But as they get going forward, I think that starting rotation, once they get their footing under them, the hitters get back, the warm weather gets down to Atlanta, the ball's carried down there a little bit too. You see the Braves I think the Braves will have a good chance to, vie for a spot in the playoffs as well at some point. But then on the AL side, the way that I want to see the Yankees do it again and play that series again. But I think losing Garrett Cole is the X factor to that whole team.
That's a big blow.
Torpedo bats might be the equalizer in that too, though, right?
And you can get the full interview that I had with Jay Jackson. We appreciate his time and his insight on our YouTube channel. Los Angeles Dodgers, they look very good this year, guys. I don't know if anyone's going to knock them off. And again, great rivalry with them and the San Francisco Giants. Just not a love lost there between Northern California and Southern California. But you know what's coming up? Shohei Ohtani, He's a big name. Any part of the world you go to, everyone knows the name Shohei Ohtani.
Actually, can I ask for an update on that, actually, Todd?
Yeah.
Are we going to see him pitching again this coming season? What's his recovery like?
You know what? That's the big unicorn. Everyone's heard about it, but no one's really seen it. The rumor is he has been throwing a bit more this year than he did last year. I think last year they just wanted to get him introduced in that Dodgers lineup and use his bat because he's such a great hitter. But the talk is they might bring him in. I don't know if I'd put him on the mound. I just think it's too much of a risk because he's such a great hitter for an everyday player. And you put him in a rotation to pitch, he's probably going to pitch once every 5 games, maybe every 7 games, or maybe he's a special case. You bring him in only once every 2 weeks. But I just don't know why you risk that because we see so many pitchers nowadays that are throwing close to around 100 miles an hour. And when things go bad for a pitcher, they go really bad. You get the famous Tommy John surgery, and that'll shelf you for a year. So a guy that you're paying that much money to, I don't know why you want to risk it because the Dodgers already have an amazing pitching staff.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe the Dodgers thought, you know what, we paid for a pitcher and a batter. Why aren't we getting both? But I think he's more than made up for his fee already. So I think he's okay.
Yeah. Suhail, wouldn't you love to see him in a cricket field?
I actually would love to watch him firstly or at a baseball game because it's the one sport actually I've not watched live and it's on my bucket list. And Shohei Ohtani is certainly at the top of that bucket list, and he'll send another jersey to me as well. So there we go. That's more money made without even needing to pitch, guys. And that's why I think global icons are needed, right? I mean, the fact that I'm sitting in India and I know exactly what Shohei Ohtani is all about and what he's up to is why I think sport is brilliant. It's why sports icons are needed. And it's why we kind of are sitting here talking about sport for an hour and not being bored.
No, you mentioned shirts and you mentioned global appeal of these superstars. I was reading some stats about just how much Ohtani has helped the bank balances of Fanatics and MLB merchandise. So Fanatics operates the MLB's merchandise business globally. They saw a 170% increase in MLB merch sales year over year in Japan. Ohtani-related merchandise has accounted for 57% of all MLB sales in MLB Store Japan. Dodgers merchandise sales up more than 2,000% year over year since he signed with the team. I mean, I don't know how much merch is. It's quite expensive in the US, right? Is he going to pay back his entire contract, do you think, Todd?
If he keeps going the way he did last year, the way he broke onto the scene, getting to the jersey thing though, because I love a good jersey. I've got a lot of framed jerseys at my home. I've always been as of late opposed to buying a jersey because your favorite player could be on to a new team within a year or two after signing a big contract. As big as his contract is, and as big as someone like Juan Soto with the Mets contract is, I don't see them moving for a while, so you're probably safe buying a LA Dodgers Shohei Ohtani or a New York Mets Juan Soto jersey because that is some big money, and there's only a few clubs that could bring him on even if they wanted to.
I will give you guys a different spin on jerseys and why jerseys don't sell well in India, even though you've got guys like an MS Dhoni and a Rohit Sharma and a Virat Kohli. There's never really been a huge amount of jersey sales and never been massive jersey deals when it comes to manufacturers, except for the Team India side, because of the number of knockoffs that are just sold outside stadiums. And it's funny, and it's because of the price point as well. And I know different companies here, whether it's Adidas, whether it's Nike, whether it's other companies like Puma as well, that have flirted with jersey sponsorships. They've come in now at a much lower price tag because they just don't find jerseys flying off the shelves that are sold at maybe 60 or 70 USD when you can buy them at 2 or 3 USD on the streets at a pretty decent quality, unfortunately. So, I mean, I'm a CEO of one of the Pro Kabaddi teams, and we've just not done a jersey deal with anyone because I know as a franchise, coming into the stadium at a Pro Kabaddi game, we've got guys selling our jerseys on the side of the road. And if I go out there and I take all of those, that entire stash, and which is illegal, I pick it up, I'm gone. The next night, there's going to be 3 new people selling the same knockoff. So it's funny how for a country of 1.4 billion, jersey sales actually don't account for that much when it comes to franchise revenue.
Right. Well, you know what's coming up next? It's time for Any Other Business.
All right, so Champions League quarterfinals. As an Arsenal fan, of course, that is very much at the top of my list. Arsenal versus Real Madrid, the first leg taking place on the 8th of April. Bukayo Saka coming back just in time. Fingers crossed he can make an immediate impact. I spoke earlier on about the fact that I headed down to watch the 3x3 FIBA Basketball Asia Cup in Singapore. There's so much happening here right now. Next weekend, the HSBC Sevens, which is otherwise known as the World Rugby Sevens Series, that was in Hong Kong last week, where Argentina Argentina just won, so they sit on top of the standings. There's only 12 points between them and Fiji in second, so anything could happen with 2 rounds left. Singapore this weekend, and then they'll be heading down to your part of the world, Todd, LA in May to round things out.
Can I just say I love rugby sevens? It's like fast break basketball. Anyways,
Yes.
I digress. Spring is in the air, and that means 2 things. The Spring Cycling Classics as the appetizers for the Grand Tours, and of course the showdown in France this July. So exciting races at the Paris-Roubaix, of course the Amstel Gold and the Liège-Bastogne-Liège, and then the Giro d'Italia, which will be coming up in May. And that all leads up, of course, to the big showdown in the streets of France. The Tour de France will start off, I believe, July 5th. It'll be awesome to see that back, because remember last year it didn't end on the Champs-Élysées because of a little thing called the Olympics. And of course, the race for Lord Stanley's Cup, the NHL playoffs, this gets really exciting. I don't know if you guys know this, but all the players, they stop shaving. So by the end, if you played all the rounds, you get to the Stanley Cup Championship, go 7 games, you got a big old lumberjack beard. It's awesome. The big question is, will a Canadian team lead all the way to get Lord Stanley's Cup, or will my first-year Utah Hockey Club make a splash in getting the playoffs? Right now, it's looking a little bit grim, but for the UHC, there's still a hope, and I still believe in miracles.
Well, that's a great update from you, Todd. By the way, on the Rugby Sevens, India is getting a Rugby Sevens League starting later this year as well, which could be interesting. We have more updates on that at some point, and maybe a couple of people who will be involved. But my update and my A.O.B. to come, I think for me, IPL, I can't ignore it. The finals are going to be on the 25th of next month, and that's going to be a big one. It also collides with the start of Roland Garros, a tournament that I absolutely love, a tournament I'm going to be presenting here in India as well as host broadcaster, and really looking forward to that, because I'm just keen to see how Iga Swiatek will go, given everything that's going on around her. Can she continue her dominance on clay? Who's going to really turn up when it comes on clay on the men's side of the draw as well, given that we've seen results like a Jakub Mensik thrown into the mix as well, a Yannick Sinner. Does he still have the goods? Does Alcaraz have what it takes to get that crown back on his head? Now, it's going to be a really, really good test for him. And coming back to Indian table tennis, because I started with that as well, we do have the Ultimate Table Tennis League that starts off in May too. So yeah, a pretty packed month when it comes to Indian sport, and a lot of sport around the world, obviously, for all of us to stay abreast of. But yeah, it's going to be a lot to look forward to when it comes to May.
All right, that will wrap up this episode. Thank you so much for listening and being a part of this Sporty Planet crew.
Yes, indeed. We will be back next week, looking ahead to April's sporting action, including the Women's Six Nations and the start of golf's major season. So please do subscribe to the show via your favorite podcast provider and on YouTube so you never miss an episode. And as Todd said earlier, please do leave us a review, hopefully a nice one too.
And you can always check us all out on our social channels as well to get your sporting fix. But until then, from Todd, from Edward, and myself, Suhail Chandhok, from different parts of the world, this is us on the Sporting Planet, signing off.